Because what we see in front of us with this budget, Mr. Chair, is a government that has massively increased debt and has no plan to stop increasing that debt. A government that managed to waste a boom in the midst of a boom. Columnist Ron Breckenridge, a principled conservative, Mr. Chair. Some of those still exist in the province. I'm not sure how many in this House, but some still exist. And he's written many columns talking about his concerns with this government. Now, Mr. Breckenridge notes that this government passed a bill called the Taxpayer Protection Act back in 2023. Well, they amended it to include a requirement that any future personal or corporate tax, income tax increases would be required to go to a referendum. Now, the Premier at the time declared, quote, "Promise made, promise kept. Bill 1 is passed in the legislature, ensuring families and businesses are protected from future tax hikes without a referendum." Now, Mr. Breckenridge, quote, says, "That will come as news to the families and businesses hit with tax increases in this government's budget." The Taxpayer Protection Act, of course, does not cover increases in the province's share of property taxes, which is what this budget delivers in spades. He notes that the numbers vary for communities across the province. For Calgary, the increase is especially substantial, representing an annual $339 tax increase for a typical single-family home. The Mayor of Calgary said it's the largest property tax jump in the city's history. Again, to quote Mr. Breckenridge, "The UCP pose as fiscal conservatives when they're railing against consumption taxes or trot out symbolic legislation like the Taxpayer Protection Act, then the government cranks up spending, blowing through its own fiscal framework in the process. It's cynical politics to begin with, made all the worse by the attempt to camouflage the tax increases by lumping them in with the municipal property tax bill." But that's precisely what this government did, Mr. Chair. You know, they will spend taxpayer money sending out flyers, bragging about all the wonderful things they did, but they will hide when they raise Albertans' property taxes by one of the largest amounts we've ever seen in the city of Calgary. This budget does nothing to make life more affordable for Albertan. It does a lot to raise costs. So we talked about the property taxes. They're raising fees for seniors in continuing care. They're pushing seniors off of the seniors' benefits in the province. Seniors who are barely making minimum wage. They're raising vehicle registration costs. They're raising registration costs for small businesses because they like to brag about being a government that supports businesses. No, they charge small businesses more, charging more fees for trade workers to get certified. The government of the working man, Mr. Chair. That is what this budget does. This is not a budget for Albertans. This is the budget, Mr. Chair, that is where the government is trying to cover up its own mistakes. It's reckless spending on the wrong priorities. It's waste of Albertans' dollars. Well, the Premier enjoys swanky flights in Saudi Arabia, 5-star plus hotel rooms.
7.
Her staff with her. 7 stars. Wow. Now, the fact is, Mr. Chair, I hear that government members are upset, and I would be too. I'd be awfully embarrassed if this was my Premier. If I was putting a budget like this out and charging these costs to Albertans while my Premier and my leader was showing that level of arrogance and entitlement, while we were taking higher salaries for ourselves, more money for our accommodations, giving salaries to our friends who are parliamentary secretaries, while raising the property taxes of everyday Albertans. Yeah, I'd be upset too. I'd be embarrassed. I'd be ashamed. But the fact is, Mr. Chair, what we have often seen is this is government that seems to know no shame. Arrogance and entitlement that far eclipses what we saw from the previous PC government, which took over 40 years to get there, and this government rocketed to in a handful. As I said, Mr. Chair, this is not a budget that serves Albertans. It's a government that is arrogant and entitled and woefully out of touch. Albertans deserve far better. And I can tell you, Mr. Chair, we are ready and waiting to deliver that better. Thank you.